So for some reason, the screen I'm on is not showing everyone. It's just showing who's talking. So I can't see if we have everyone yet. And I usually like to wait a couple of minutes if we're missing somebody. So
You have everybody from what I can see.
okay. All right. So I'll open the meeting. And if we just want to start with the approval of the past minutes. Did everybody get a chance to read them?
Yep.
All right, so if somebody wants to make a motion to approve the minutes and the dates of the minutes, that'd be great.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes on the date. Sorry.
Seconded.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Anybody, by the way, that wasn't at either one of those meetings, for the new people especially, if you weren't on one of those meetings, you should abstain from voting on those particular minutes, just for future reference. I know it's not rocket science, but I've forgotten that myself, and you just kind of cruise through with approvals. But just to keep things square, if you weren't at the meetings, and I'm not speaking to anyone in particular here, I don't have the rosters of the past meetings, but just if you weren't there, just don't automatically vote to approve them necessarily.
I can't remember
right.
if I was not at that one of them.
I mean, technically, I think you can still approve them even if you weren't there, but it's better to abstain.
Yeah, I know that, so. Okay, well, if you just look back and if you see that I'm not present, if someone can just take my vote, I mean, is that okay?
All right, sounds good. So what's the first item on the agenda?
Update from director.
And do we have Ashley here? I don't see that Ashley is on the call.
We do not have her on the call.
Okay, so we'll push that to the bottom, and if she is able to get on, then we'll get her update, or whoever. I know she was putting together our annual report, so it'd be nice to talk to her about that at some point, or at least, ask questions as to how she formulated it for whoever comes in next. We might be able to offer some insight, but as of right now, I guess we'll have to just hold off. All right, and what do we have next on the agenda?
Discussion of annual report.
All right. So I guess that without Ashley, it's going to be difficult to discuss that, and that's okay. I'm not sure if she knew. There was some confusion. They originally had us on the schedule for last week, and I looked back through the minutes because I thought I was missing something. If we had moved the meeting for whatever reason to get in, before a selectmen's meeting or something, and I couldn't see anything in those minutes that showed that. So I talked to Amy, and she didn't know and had only assumed that it was for last week, which is why everyone got that weird message last week about the meeting being canceled and pushed to this week. But if I did miss something, tell me. I've had a pretty crazy last few weeks. Anybody have insight on that?
No, I don't.
None of us know.
All right, so it was just a misunderstanding. Then I'm saying to myself, geez, did I miss something here about having a meeting early?
I didn't see, Mark, I didn't see any email chain either. When it popped up with me, I was like, well, I thought we were always just going to start meeting on the second Tuesday of each month. Like we were getting back to what we have been for many, many years, even though we did deviate a bit. So when I saw that come up, I was like, I wonder what that was about. I didn't know if it was going to be an emergency meeting or what. So when it got back on track with saying it was this week, it kind of made more sense.
Yeah, that's the same thought process I had. I thought, I got to be honest with everybody. I've been kind of remiss a little bit in what I've been doing here. We've had some real issues at my house personally, which is, nothing to do with this meeting. So I didn't know if I had just missed something in all the chaos. Christmas night, I had a 50-foot spruce tree fall right smack on my house.
Oh, jeez.
Took out my entire deck, crushed everything on my deck, it just obliterated it, and was like running your finger through the side of a birthday cake and the frosting right down the side of my house. So, that was a fun night, but I feel lucky that no one was hurt. I mean, branches went through my driveway and 2 feet into the ground. So that was fun. But so since then, I've been just kind of all over the place and trying to get that squared away and other things. So again, if I had missed anything, I apologize. Is Harry on the call?
I don't see him on this either.
Okay. One of the things I missed, unfortunately, and it's my fault completely, I totally take responsibility for this. I had thought I sent the draft of that note that we were going to send to the selectmen to Harry, and it sat in my outbox unknowing to me. I thought it was sent. For some reason, it didn't send. So our letter to the selectmen regarding that grant never made it to them. And when it got so late that the date kind of passed that they were going to meet about it, I kind of wanted to hear what they had to say to Harry's letter. And then we would modify what we wrote back to them. But again, that's my fault, and I take full responsibility for that. And I apologize to the committee based on the commitments that we made to do that. And really no excuse. It was just an oversight on my part to make sure that went through. But I will take care of that in the coming weeks to find out where we stand. I was hoping to get an update from Harry, so hopefully he jumps on eventually. Before we move on to the Walpole Mall discussion, does anybody have any questions, concerns, ideas? Kind of move into open forum, only because, it seems like we kind of cruise along here. We haven't had many topics to discuss, and I just want to make sure that folks aren't just, kind of sitting back and wondering what the heck's going on. If you have some ideas or some thoughts or things that we should be discussing, everything's wide open here, and the more ideas we have and the more things that we can put on the table, I think will make us more productive in the long run. So again, no one ever be afraid to say, what the heck are we doing? You say, Mark, you're screwing this up. What the hell's going on? Whatever you want to say it. I just want everything to be wide open so we can be as productive as we can be. So I'll open forum now for any ideas, thoughts, at all moving before we get into the Walpole Mall discussion.
So Mark, I just have sorry, Ken, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just a note. Sorry, go ahead.
I think we ought to get a update on the Aggie School land every meeting because that will have a big effect on how that will develop in the long run. And Brian, are you pretty close to that, or you follow that?
A little bit. I had a conversation with someone, Mr. Buckley from Walpole, who's also an Aggie employee. So he's kind of close to the situation as well. And it sounded like to him there might be some modifications to the size of the land. I think one of the things they were very cognizant about is not damaging any of the trails that the cross-country team were using, things of that nature people were walking on. but I get the sense that there will be some sort of solar project that does happen on that property. And legally, doesn't really seem like there's a way around that.
Okay,
Okay, that's unfortunate, but, you know, I think I would,
They've already completed the carport, and the solar panels are on the carport. So they've already got some energy savings going on there for the school itself.
you know, a lot of schools and churches and municipalities are doing that. They're putting roofs on their parking lots and carports to harness that or lease that area for solar. So, you know, that might be something that we keep in our back pocket. And whatever projects come down the pike in the future, we might want to see if that's an opportunity. I know I asked about that when I was on planning board with a couple of the big apartment buildings, and they said, no, we have no interest in that. I was like, okay, you know, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I don't know, but it was pretty interesting.
Mark, I looked at it for some of my properties, and the problem is the payback is not there. So, and then the other problem is that what no one factors in is that when they do penetrate your roof. So if all of a sudden, you know, you have to assume some roof problem is going to come down the road as well.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting thought, and coming at it from a property owner, you're right. It doesn't make sense to open yourself up for issues, structural issues, and then for what? To break even, you know?
Exactly.
What
That's with the
what
rebate.
is the upside? So that's interesting. Okay. Is that the Aggie doing that on their parking lot for themselves, or is that part of the other project?
That seems like a perfect, like, I'm thinking about it more and more. I actually walk my dog at the Aggies, so I've been watching it, but I feel like the best solution is covering these parking lots. It saves you on plow costs. There's no more disturbance of any forestry, and it's dead space that's always wide open because parking lots are always wide open. People love it because snow and rain don't fall in their cars. I don't understand with so much town property and so much county property, the parking lot seems like the cheapest way out. You just put a cheap steel structure up. There's no damaging of roofs, and you get the best of both worlds. And usually parking lots are close to utilities, unlike fresh forests, which you got to trench in and run the lines back there. So I don't understand why they're doing it in the back there.
Because the land is large enough,
that's a great thought,
unfortunately, right? So they're looking to require, you know, basically the Aggie did what they did in their parking lot for their own consumption, is my understanding. They've been looking to put it on the roof of the Aggie. The board of directors, my understanding, didn't want it on the roof. So my understanding, they did that. Why and how big is this other, you know, property that's being looked at? I think it's because of the size of the you know, the solar panels they're trying to put in back there is why
Yeah, I mean, we're talking acres back there, so that's
right.
Yeah. But I've seen a lot of schools do it too. I wonder does anybody have any expertise in that area or knowledge? Like, if somebody does a smaller project like what the Aggie's doing in their parking lot, what is the payback between the savings that you're going to get on producing your own energy versus the construction costs of building the structure in the first place?
It takes a long time, long payback period. But often they do some sort of a lease program where the utility company or the power company or the panel company will install it for you, and then it's sort of a lease back thing.
I know putting on a building, it was like a 9 or 10 year payback.
Yeah.
That's what I know. I don't know. I couldn't speak on building a structure to house the units. I just know if you put it on a building, it was around 9 or 10 years.
I can actually get you a case study because the building that I manage on 1 Fox Hill Drive in Walpole did put in solar panels about 5 years ago. So I'll talk to my cousin, Michelle Keating, the building owner, and see if she can't give me some data.
And the other question I might have, based on what the Aggies thinking of doing out in the land that they have. Is there like a term of this lease? I mean, eventually, and who knows when, it could be 10 years, it could be 50 years, but eventually this technology is going to fall by the wayside for another technology that might not be solar based. Does the land come back to the Aggie at that point, or the county? What happens to these? So it's 20 years and then the Aggie has the right of refusal, or does the solar company have the right of refusal?
No, 20 years and the land is given back to the Aggie. The project is over.
Okay. Well, one thing I've learned is 20 years sounds like a long time, but man, I remember 20 years like it was a moment ago. So
That's when you were in your 20s,
all
Mark.
Yeah, but the technology
I wish.
that would be way too old by then, 20 years.
Right.
Yeah, the technology will be far surpassed what they're using now.
Yeah.
It really almost is now, but regardless of that, all right, that's interesting. So for 20 years of subsidizing your revenue stream, and then you might get the land back anyway. I don't like the way it's going to look, and I don't like what it's going to do to the neighborhood, but that certainly, to me, is a silver lining that you're not just turning the land over to the county again.
Yeah.
Forever lost.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, it's the county's land. They can do whatever they want. We're not going to say what they can do, but I always think, is there a better alternative? Like parking lots are really seem to make a better alternative. I don't know the cost though of building the structure to house the units, but still.
Oh, I agree with you, John, completely. And many schools are covering their parking lots just to harness that power, or the lease revenue from letting someone else harness that power. So
Yeah.
I think Walpole High School could take a good hard look at that. But in any event, it's an interesting thought. Hopefully, people start to move in that direction.
Okay, Mark,
anybody else?
is on.
Yeah, I did. The December meeting, we were to review the Moose Hill property and make recommendations on behalf of the EDC. I'm not sure if people responded or if we moved anything forward, as a recommendation from the EDC for that 40B property.
We did not comment on that, and I don't know if we done. I can't remember in the minutes. Did we vote to comment on that? I just can't remember, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, I believe we did. I'm not sure if it was noted in the minutes appropriately, but I believe we voted to comment on it.
Let me take a look at that, and I'll do what's needed and appropriate. One thing I've learned is we will have an opportunity to comment on that project. Let me find out where they are with the project, because those dates move all the time as well. When they're in front of zoning, in front of planning, and I think it was a preliminary hearing in any event. But I will check on where we are, and then I'll take the appropriate action in terms of our stance on that project, which was in the positive, I'm assuming, in the affirmative, that we're interested in any project like that moving forward. But I'll check the minutes just to make sure.
Okay. Thanks.
Anybody else with anything?
I get a question.
Mark, Harry is on now.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Mark, I have a question. I'm curious, do we know, from an economic development standpoint, how well, maybe Donnell knows too, how well are these new apartment buildings and the 55 active adult, they're in the center of town, what type of occupancy rates are they starting to see? Are they having success, or are they not having success? I just, you don't hear anything about it, and it could positively impact a lot of downtown businesses, and was just kind of curious if anybody knew anything.
Well, the last I heard, which was a couple months ago, and I haven't heard anything recently, was that the East Street one, right down the center of town, they only had like 10 or 12 units rented. And then I thought I heard the other one closer to the train station was between 40 to 50% occupied. And that was a couple months ago. So I don't know. In the one down by the train station, I don't know how many of them were kind of rented out prior to COVID. And so that was just it was going on because it had already been done and then COVID hit, whether it stopped or whatever. But I think the one down on East Street hadn't even come online yet until COVID had hit, and it was at its point going. So I only heard, the last I heard, they had 10 rented. My office is down there. I don't see a lot of cars coming in and out of there. I do see maybe a dozen cars parked outside in the back parking lot. Don't know how many are parked underneath, but definitely not a lot of traffic on that one. And I can't speak for the amount of traffic down by the train station. I haven't seen it, haven't been down by there.
I've heard the same, Janelle. I heard that the Edgewood, or whatever they're calling it, project, the East Street project, has been a little bit slow, but that's because of when they came online. I don't think they're worried, but they are slow right now. The Union and West, I think they're about 60% full. I think if you ask them, they would say they were on track. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But I do see activity. If anybody's driven past there at night, it's kind of what you'd expect. You see people walking in and out. You see people in they have like a gym on the first floor that you see a lot of people working on. People are like crossing the street from the parking lot and in the lobby. So it feels like there's a little bit of activity going on there, which quite frankly felt pretty good driving past it. It feels like it has some energy. So hopefully, I want them both to succeed, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think Union and West is probably, given this COVID world we live in, moving okay. And I think the other place would like to speed it up a little bit, but again, time will tell. And I think the Union and West property, I know for a fact, my wife and I went and looked at one of the 3 bedrooms up there because we were considering selling our house. We have to stay in Walpole for another 4 years minimum because of my daughter. But, just for the fun of it, we went and looked, and we loved one of them, truthfully. And 2 weeks later, they were sold out of all their 3 bedrooms. And this was back in like April. So, I think they're getting some action up there, which is good for them. And, I'm happy for Walpole if that fills up. I'm happy for Walpole Center. I think eventually both of those projects will do fine. I think the doomsdayers that are saying that these are gonna be, half empty and then become affordable. I'm tired of doomsday talk between you and I. Everybody on this committee. Everybody wants to talk about how bad everything's going to be. I think these 2 properties are going to do pretty well, and I'm hoping that they do.
I can speak for the one on Baker Street, which is actually in Sharon. And I'll tell you, that is dead. You go by there and they advertise an open house, and there's nobody there.
Are they open now, Ken? Are they ready? Do they have units available?
Yeah, they're advertising, open house and so forth. But it looks to me like there's no traffic at all. Now, contrary to that, the one on East Street by the church, it seems to be pretty busy.
I noticed that myself. You're right. The Pennington Crossing, or whatever they're calling it, looks to be pretty busy. The parking lot's got a lot of cars in it. The lights, you can kind of tell when you drive by the building. Most of the units are lit at night, and so that's a good sign for them as well.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of people don't like the idea of it. I can't speak for the whole board, but the more people that we can have reside downtown, the better it's going to be for the downtown, obviously. So fingers crossed on all those properties.
Yeah, and it actually may be that Walpole's forward thinking, because I don't know if anyone's following this transportation housing bill that's ready to go in front of Baker, where there are some people asking requirements that housing be built within X miles of a commuter rail or MBTA station. Baker's already turned this down a year or two back, but it's got some legs again on Beacon Hill. That's going to require.
What did the bill say about it required? What did it require?
They're going to require building housing within X amount of a commuter rail or a MBTA station.
When they say require it, like the government's got to build it, or they're
Yeah, I don't know if the government's building it or they're going to force people to. The only
are they just going to change? Are they going to do it through zoning by?
That's
zoning
what people
criteria
are
for
fighting,
apartment
John.
zoning?
The things I've read in the Globe so far, people bring up the same questions. And
Okay.
that's what Baker shot it down on is, each town, each locale has their own zoning board and planning board, and why you forcing this on local communities and, but once again, it has some legs. So it'll be interesting where it goes. I think it'll die on Beacon Hill, but, you can go Google it. It's actually interesting because you're like, why isn't this left to the local communities to decide what they need to do?
Yeah, that's really strange because, how do you enforce that?
Yeah.
Does that mean that the Copley MBTA stop has to have the same amount of residential as the one on Plimpton Street near the Dog Rock?
Yeah, I do not know those answers.
You know what I mean?
Right. No, that's what people have been raising, and maybe it'll just die. But I found it, interesting that it's popping up again.
Hey, if I didn't know any better, I would think that Kraft was behind that, which would compel Foxborough to let them build 1,500 units near Patriot Place. You know what I mean? There's always something behind something.
Yeah.
So who knows?
I thought they stopped the train there. I thought they had that pilot program going to Foxborough, and I thought that they disbanded it, or maybe that was just temporary because of COVID.
Yeah, I think the verbiage they used was a temporary disruption of the pilot due to ridership because of the pandemic.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah, again, whether we want that station or not, there's no way to get a real idea of its viability when no one is going into town.
Yeah.
I have something else to bring up, if you guys don't mind.
No problem.
A friend of mine asked me if I knew any businesses that were struggling with Walpole, because there's a private group that is helping struggling businesses. Does anyone here? I thought about Vero. I thought about Beacons because they closed their dining rooms and they just closed their restaurants because they couldn't. The economics didn't make sense for 25% capacity.
Right.
Any other ideas I could push on to my friend to help this? Just Walpole businesses. Does anyone know anyone really struggling?
I haven't had anyone contact me in a while. It's been all the usual suspects in the past, though. Mostly restaurants, some salons, things like that. But I wish there was a way that we could. I don't know if anybody else has this feeling. But like, for instance, my business and my opportunities are so low that now I'm saying to myself, what the heck? Right now I'm deciding if I should, get online or watch Gilligan's Island. I'm just like throwing my hands up and saying, should I go out and get a job or should I keep doing what I'm. So I think a lot of these businesses are like, I don't know what's around the next corner, and I'm so numb to this right now. And I wonder if there's a way we could grab some outreach to kind of remind people that, there are opportunities to help your business still. And if you need help, please, contact economic development or contact this. I think people are becoming kind of nose blind to all of the stimulus and everything else, and they don't know that there's actual help very close by. Does anybody have any ideas how to maybe get out to some of these Walpole businesses that are not just restaurants?
So,
Yeah, I'd look at Harry.
But just a question on what private group or a separate group were you talking about?
It was, let's see, let me read, hold on.
Destination Downtown?
He said there's a group of Walpole can help struggling Walpole businesses. He didn't even tell me.
Yeah, so we had our meeting last night for Destination Downtown, and we were just about to pull a trigger on, highlighting one business per week, and everybody to do like a mad rush of giving them business. And the business we were going to do the first week was Jalapenos, and they got a great a donation from Barstool Sports. So we're kind of moving on to the next one, but we're going to be highlighting 2 or 3
How much did they
businesses. I think they got 25.
Wow, good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It sounds like a lot of money, but I can only imagine when you have 20 employees, that goes pretty quickly.
right, and not to say that we're not going to come back to Jalapenos either, but yeah, we're working. Like the first group that started out earlier last year was called Walpole Rolls Together. It was kind of themed with the toilet paper theme, and they were doing just kind of highlighting it on social media, a restaurant a week or a business per week. It was mostly restaurants to focus your business on, to help them out. So what we're now doing is we're going to probably highlight 2 per week, both retail and restaurant, and have a giveaway where everybody goes on and either gets into a drawing or likes a social media page and gets in the drawing, and then they get like a $25 gift card to another local business. So through the chamber and through Destination Downtown, we're working on that right now.
John, one idea I'd throw out is possibly the dry cleaners in town.
That's exactly that's so funny. That's exactly what I said to my friend. That was my answer.
Yeah. So I know, I know Costa pretty well at Reliable Dry Cleaners. He literally just had his new building built it got completed during COVID. He was paying 2 rents, one at his old facility and one at obviously his new building's getting ready. He's moved in and business is way off. And I would think every dry cleaner in town would be having similar problems.
That does sound very true.
Yeah, so if you guys have any suggestions, email me and we'll get them on the list.
I would also think about the salons in town. We got a bunch of them, and they can't have the same amount of people in there that they used to. So they've got to cut back on the amount of cuts per day. And then if you've got an older clientele, a lot of those people are a little concerned about going out and going into a salon and getting a haircut. Yeah. So, I think the salons are also maybe something to check into as well.
Okay.
Anybody have any ideas as how we can maybe reach out to these folks on a mass basis and just say, look, there's still help available. If you need help, contact such and such. Again, I think people are becoming a little bit nose blind and a little bit, I think there's a little bit of despair out there because they figure this has been going on so long, there's no end in sight, and almost starting to give up a little bit. So maybe some outreach could help.
If we had a 1-page executive summary flyer, and I'd be happy to walk into a few of those type of places and say, here's some information if you want to follow up on it, and then it's up to them. Sometimes with these PP loans and grants, there's so much tied to it that it becomes a difficult process, and all the things they're going to have to show later on that they did with it, which they should. But yeah. I think sometimes that stuff gets overwhelming, how many employees you have, how much your business is down. Frankly, these people are just hurting, and if there's some easier ways to help them right now get through the next month or 2, that would be good.
I agree, and I think that, the step back that we've taken hurt people. I think a few months ago, people saw the light at the end of the tunnel and they were just holding on. And then when it got ratcheted back a little bit, I think the hands just were thrown up and said that, what can I do? So you're right. I want to try to talk to Ashley through Amy, and because Ashley really had a good handle on what was available, in real time, because it changes so much, and secondarily, how to access it and what it really meant in layman's terms. So maybe I think I'm going to try to get in touch with Ashley on that. She can kind of sum it up for us a little bit, that we can get that one pager out there, and say in very brief terms, look, here's a brief overview of what could be available to you, kind of don't give up type thing. You know what I mean? So I'll get that ball rolling and see where we can go with that. It's a great idea, though. We just can't lose sight of the fact that I think small business has been the number one target of this thing, unintentionally, but it's certainly the number one group that has got the most risk of failure on a grand scale. So we have to do what we can do to try to stop that. As much as Amazon is great, we do not want a world where that's all we have as an option. So okay, I'll ask Ashley what's available. We'll put together a one sheet, and then I'll send out and maybe get some ideas from everybody as to how to distribute it. Anybody else?
No.
All right. So what do we think about the whole Walpole Mall? I mean, I had no idea that they were in the position that they seem to be in. Did anybody have any insight?
So I didn't hear anything on the streets or through the real estate brokers or anything. I didn't hear anything about that. That was kind of sudden, but I kind of get it. I mean, retail's a whole new animal now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I was surprised, but I was surprised that there wasn't more rumblings about it prior to an actual auction date.
I think the reason being was that from what I heard, the auction was somewhat of a formality because I think this is kind of surmising. I think that owner has a mortgage to the bank, and I think owner couldn't make payments, but bank knew, and bank has taken the position that they're just going to buy it back at the auction, but they have to do an action by law to benefit the owner just in case, because they know that retail right now is getting crushed. So they didn't care if it didn't get marketed. They were going to buy it back regardless because there's still rents coming in and they're going to pay it. So from what I heard from the auction house, they weren't pushing to market. They weren't pushing. They're just going to go through the formality, put it out there, give the public notice, and then buy it back.
Got it.
Hey, John, that does that include the pad sites on the parking lot as well?
I am not sure, and I called the question that because I was kind of curious. And like any auction house, they always say to look at the title. The problem is that the titles are all pretty convoluted, and I wasn't going to spend hours at the registry of deeds for me not being interested in to buy a piece of property.
Right. I wonder if the pad sites are included in that.
I think it is. The way I read the attachments, it describes all those pods, and it's got diagrams of them.
Oh, it does. Okay, good.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, but then
It already got moved to next
21,
week.
22, and 23, or whatever lots it is, and I couldn't locate what lots those were. I couldn't find it, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If there was, and again, I apologize for being either naive or at a minimum unknowing on this. Let's say it wasn't a formality and the bank didn't already have a plan, which, by the way, makes complete sense because wherever retail goes, when you have a Kohl's as an anchor, that's pretty good right now, as long as Kohl's wants to stay. However, Is there a risk that a new buyer comes in, buys this place, and just phases out the leases, tears it down, and does something else?
I mean, it could happen, but I assume all those leases are staggered out. I mean, it's something that could happen, Mark, depending upon where retail goes in the future, and we don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, that's too bad. I would hate to see it go. I mean, I think it missed its opportunity years ago to be really great, but it certainly is a good resource for the town, and I'm sure the town does pretty well revenue wise.
Mark, if they kind of did anything with it, I think they'd do something similar to what they did on University Ave and what they did down at, let's say, in Natick Mall and that type of thing, where they'd probably renovate it into some retail and some type of use like that, but bring in a lot more housing to support it, make it a real mixed use as opposed to just a straight retail use. I mean, I could see somebody coming in and doing that, and that actually would benefit Walpole probably more so.
Oh, I agree there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think mixed use is way better because you can go up.
And Northern Development, who's the owner of the property, right? Is it still owned by Northern Development or managed by them? They know that.
You like it?
I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know what the viability of that would be with Legacy and University Ave and Patriot Place being so close. I mean, I would love to see it. It would change everything in East Walpole.
On the other side of that, Mark, the other positive part about that, it's so close to Route 95, which makes it viable.
Yeah, no, you're
Also,
right.
those other two don't have housing, right?
University Ave does. They've
Oh,
got.
yeah. No, I was thinking of the other one. Okay. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, it does.
Legacy quasi does. They have those two buildings next to it.
Yeah, right behind it, right, John? Those two apartment buildings.
Yes.
Are those market rate apartments?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that part of the same development though?
No,
Or is it just?
just next door.
Yeah.
And those are right on a train line, I think.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's certainly worth keeping an eye on, but I think it's one of those situations that whatever happens, happens. I don't think anybody has a lot of control over it at this point. But I certainly hope that they move in the right direction. I think a lot of people got gun shy about this property when one or two neighbors behind the property made it so hard. What was it, 15 years ago now, Danelle?
Yeah, that they're trying to buy out all the rustic road.
Yeah, they really wanted to build Legacy Place right here in Walpole, and a lot of the neighbors on Rustic said no chance, and so they moved on. That's their right, but you're not going to stop progress, and we'll see what happens. I hope it doesn't leave, because that would be tough on Walpole revenue-wise for sure.
And just to add, the auction date's been moved till the middle of February, so the auction is not this week. It's been moved to February 18th.
Oh, okay.
As John noted, for the bank to work out their own things or whatever, but just looking at the page, it's been moved from January 14th to February 18th.
A lot of malls out there that I don't know if everybody's been driving around or in your travels. A lot of malls with grass growing up through the parking lot, man. It is just a blight on many neighborhoods around, especially southeastern Mass, like in the Bridgewater area, Taunton. It's just, these buildings are standing empty, and Amazon is just waiting to come around and buy them all up to be distribution centers. And again, great for Amazon, but bad for the cities and towns that have these areas. So again, I don't know what we can do to help, but certainly we would try to do anything we can. So if anybody has any ideas once they do auction it, feel free to let us know. John, you could put a big ass car wash in here. I'll tell you that.
I think I already did up the street in Walpole.
Yeah, I love that car wash, by the way.
Same, love it.
Thank you.
That thing is great.
Yeah.
And it's the little things, John, the little things that matter. My daughter absolutely loves the fact that you get the LED lights at every different station in that
Oh,
car
yeah.
wash.
We
I
got
don't
it.
even, I mean, it does a great job, but I would still go there if it didn't, just because of the damn lights.
I know, right? It's like you're in a discotheque in the middle of the day.
It is. It's awesome. It's like, oh, you can tell you're drying off because the red lights are on.
Yeah,
Oh, you're rinsing. Now the blue lights.
Yeah.
So it's really, you did a really great job up there. It's awesome.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I mean, you were on the planning board, Mark. What I had to go through with that. Oh my God.
Oh man. Well, yeah. You know what? We could build the greatest home for the poor that looked like, could make Walpole $1.5 million a year, and the planning board would object to it
I know.
for some reason, somehow. Doesn't matter. But yeah, you did an awesome job up there.
Thank you. Appreciate
As long as you got that extra 1.5 feet in the back, just in case the ladder truck has to turn around.
it. Remember that?
How many planning board meetings did you have to go to just because of that? Is it 2 extra?
I know. I think it was 2 extra just because of the 1.5 feet for a ladder truck to be able to circle the building. Yet, they didn't want to go in reverse and turn around. But yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we're just sitting there on the planning board looking around, going, "Really?
Yeah.
1.5 feet?" And we can't let him just build it up because that would put him.
How about a neighbor saying, can Route 1 handle the volume of traffic and get a traffic study done? Yet Patriots games, I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Well, I
green for high traffic. Never mind.
When you're on the board and there are citizens, neighbors that are coming up and giving their testimony in a hearing, and very respectful. I understand they live there, but honestly, these people were saying that because of the water in the winter, that people were going to come skidding and sliding out of that exit and run over the kids at the bus stop at the bottom of the hill.
Oh,
And
Crazy.
and I'm like, come on, people. I mean,
Yeah.
so, I mean, what you had? What, 5 postponements of your planning board meeting, if I remember correctly, at least?
Yep. And then just they kept. I was in it for a year. It's like they wanted to see me all the time.
Unbelievable. Well, again, I'm glad it happened, and it's really a great place.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right. Do we have anything else for open forum? Oh, Harry, I wanted to come back to you. I'm sorry, I forgot about this. Harry, did you end up? I took the mea culpa. The letter that I was supposed to send to you and to the select board sat in my outbox, and I didn't know it was there. About the grant. Did you ever send the letter from the chamber regarding those grants that they passed on?
Oh, was waiting for you.
All right, so you haven't yet? Okay, so I made a commitment to revisit that. That's my fault. That when it was in my outbox, I was dealing with a lot of stuff, and I just screwed up, and I forgot to go back to it. But I know we have 2 or 3 more viable dates to apply, and so I just to reiterate what we talked about first, I will follow up with that, and we'll get that out, and we'll get on the select board's agenda about how to move forward with that.
All right.
So
Not like a
so Harry,
tree. It's not like a tree didn't hit your house or something.
I know. Oh, God, don't remind me of that. Anyway, all right. So, is there anything else? Anybody have anything for open forum that they want to conclude with, or are we good?
Good.
All right. I will try to get with Ashley and see if I can get a copy of the annual report sent to everybody, just so we can see it.
Actually, are they? Is the town hiring a new person to replace Ashley?
The last I heard from Jim was when he told me that Ashley was leaving, and he said that they were going to take their time and find someone, to fill the role. Hard shoes to fill, and I don't disagree with that, by the way.
Absolutely.
She did a great job. And I don't think they want to take a step backwards, so I think they're going to take their time. But yes, they are going to hire someone. I just think that they're going to make sure that they hire the right person as opposed to just trying to fill the role immediately. And so I respect that, and we'll see where it goes from there. I think we'll be okay. Amy, from a clerical standpoint, I think is doing a great job. She's very responsive. She stays on top of everything for us. Most importantly, does what she says she's going to do. And so I think we can get by pretty effectively until they do get someone that they feel good with Amy. So if anybody has any thoughts on that, certainly speak up. But my thought is that we'll be okay until they find someone.
I agree.
All right. Anything else? And I apologize for being in the car. I can't see everybody, so it's hard for me to kind of moderate this. I can't see if someone wants to talk. Sometimes I can tell with, little eye movements or hand gestures, but I'm kind of in the dark here. So if no one else has anything, I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right, everybody. I'll be in touch for the next meeting, and if anybody needs to see something happen or has a suggestion as an agenda item for next meeting, please send it to me, and I'll make sure that Amy gets it.
All righty. Thank you.
Mark.